So, hello and a very warm welcome to Season 8 of the Mundane to Magical Online Summit series. My name is Louise Matson, and as always, I am truly blessed to be your host. And today, more than any day, because the technical issues that we've been having today with MailChimp not working and Facebook not working properly means that we have a very small live intimate group. And like I say, well done to everybody who has managed to navigate the energies of the universe to make it to this live show, to make it to this penultimate live call of the season. So today I'm really excited to welcome another brand new speaker to the summit, the wonderful Erica VanEaton. For those of you who haven't come across Erica and her work, she is an intuitive energy healer that uses sound, light, and quantum therapy techniques to access the entire matrix of the human for healing. The intention she holds is for unification. She looks at healing and expansion of self-expression through the lens of wholeness, realizing that each aspect of the human was designed to work in flow with each other as source creator. She sees human containers as the bridge to heaven on earth, as do I, and has a deep desire to help her clients know they are boundless, infinite beings of light, full of infinite potential. And that is a real beautiful intention, because that is truly what we all are. Now, the topic of our conversation today is quantum leap into a new you. And as we've heard from so many speakers this season, this is the clear message that is coming through. It is time for us all to fully quantum leap and take all of those leaps that we're being offered by the universe and allow ourselves to be all that we are. So I'm excited to introduce Erica to you all and to hear what she has to share with us on this live call. And as always, please feel free to ask any questions. Please use the chat option on Zoom or the Q&A options on Zoom. So let's get started. It's my absolute pleasure and honor to welcome you to the show, Erica.
Hi, thank you for having me. And despite the technical difficulties, it's going to be fun. So we'll
absolutely. And it's always available on the replay, so people will be able to connect in. I will manage to get MailChimp sorted by hook or by crook later on. So as you are a new speaker to the show, I thought it would be nice if you just started off by, giving a little bit of an introduction to yourself, the work you do, how you got into it, and your own personal story on, how you made that quantum leap into being all that you are.
Thank you. Yeah, it's something that I always do like to share because it's kind of a different journey. We all have our different journeys, but my journey really began about 14 years ago with the birth of my oldest son, who was born with Down syndrome, and we later recognized as being on the autism spectrum. When he was born, I just knew him, and we had this instant deep connection. And I wasn't down the spiritual path yet. I didn't understand energy, but I intuitively knew what he needed and the environment that he needed to be in. And it was almost as though I could see energy moving through his mind. So the way that I spoke to him mattered. And I knew that I needed to be consistent with my words, and that I needed to be delicate with how I energetically gave him those words. And I understood that if I gave him too many strings of words together, that it would actually jumble up his mind, because I could almost see, sense, know that it would start wrapping around his mind and causing confusion. So I think this was an important part of my journey that I've never really talked about, the importance of words. And if we're wanting to quantum leap, then we have to be aware of what words we're using, not only verbally, but in our minds too, right? So one thing with Down syndrome is that they are born oftentimes with low muscle tone. So whereas we can learn to crawl, walk, do these kinds of things a little bit easier, for him it's a little bit more difficult. So he was going to therapies 3 to 4 times a week to learn how to do these things. But what he was doing that was helping more was he would often come to me in my dream state, and he would show himself doing the thing that he couldn't yet do in the physical world. So if we were working on navigating the physical body from laying to sitting, sitting to crawling, crawling to walking, those kind of transitions. He would show me himself doing that in a dream state, and I would feel the emotions that he felt while he was doing them. And I would see like all the vivid colors that he would do those things with. And I would wake up the next morning, I'd still feel those emotions of joy and excitement of having him do that thing. And the picture would be so vivid in my memory. And then my little brother, my dad, my husband sometimes would have the dreams on the same night as well. And again, none of us understood this world yet, but I would get a call from my brother or dad and be like, hey, I had this really crazy dream about Caden, and it was so real. And it's like, I know, I had it too. But what he was teaching us how to do, what he was teaching me how to do, was hold space for him in the quantum realm. So we often think that memory is stored in our bodies, and that's not really an accurate description of how we connect to memories, period. Memories are actually held in the energy field that connects all things in that quantum realm. The only thing connecting us into those memories are the neuropeptides and different chemicals that we hold in our tissues and our fascia and our muscles and organs that come in response to the emotions that we felt during the experiences of those memories. So by him giving me this vivid imagery and having me feel the emotions of joy and excitement, and I would wake up still feeling that excitement and that joy of seeing him be able to do this thing, I was connecting into a new memory in the field for him. And that allowed me to carry the vibrations, hold the vibrations, and radiate those out. And he could then attune himself to those vibrations, connecting into those memories. And shortly after I would attune him to these new memories in the field, he would then be able to do that thing in the physical realm. It would only take like a week or two, and he would begin crawling, he began walking, and these beautiful things. So he was training me how to work with him in the quantum realm in a way that was much faster for him, in a way that he understood energetically. And that's kind of, he's been my master teacher this entire journey. So that's one big aspect that he started having me play with him in. And then later on came the restructuring of the ego and working with the mind and the body consciousness a little differently to help him embody his vast spirit into the body. Mm-hmm. So if we think about, there's a ray of white light. That ray of white light that we incarnate on hits a prism and it filters out into an entire spectrum of light. Each of these different rays carry a different level of consciousness. No one's better than the other. It's just different levels of consciousness, understandings, frequencies. It's just frequencies. So many of us reside on 2 to 3 of those when we incarnate down into the human form, into the body. And because we have held a limited number of those rays, it's been a little bit easier for us as we begin to descend down into the body to fully come down through the chakra system. But for those like my son who hold the entire spectrum of light, he holds the entire spectrum, like all the rays of light, and then some that we don't even know about yet. When he starts to try to when he started to try to descend down into his body, and those like him, when they hit those lower chakras, the root, the sacral, the solar plex, because they have held so much emotional trauma and chemical warfare that we've placed upon this earth plane, they really slowed down in a sense. And so we were needing to clean those up, clear those out, because when he came down and tried to come into his body, he splintered off and kind of popped outside. Or sometimes I'll see those with autism, when they try to come down, they just bounce out altogether and they're not in their bodies at all. They'll be hanging out to the side. And the reason why is because those lower 3 chakras have been so slow. Yeah. So one of the first things that Archangel Metatron had me begin doing was speeding up those and clearing out those lower 3 chakras. And I think that's why it has been such a theme for the past few years. You've seen this consistently, the need to ground, the need to open up that root chakra, right? And to heal those, because if we're wanting to embody an entire spectrum of light and be able to hold more and more expansive levels of consciousness, then we have to have a chakra system that can support that. And for a long time, it couldn't. And that, that goes into the cellular structure of the physical container. So long story short, that's how I came into this work. And that's when I talk about, and when you were talking about, we're divine beings of light here, wanting to understand what it is to live in unity consciousness. Well, for me, that understanding came from looking at how he needed me to change and how he needed his physical structure to change, to heal, basically, not to change, but to heal so I could expand and hold the same kind of frequencies that he could, because we're supposed to be able to hold those in the human container. That's what we came here to do. We just haven't really been able to do it. So if we begin to look at the human container as a wholeness, a whole aspect of our soul, then we won't continue to individualize, pushing the ego out, pushing the mind out, saying that we're not our physical body and focusing on the spirit. Because again, that's just other aspects of separation. And we're wanting to come into unification. So that's the experience of the whole that I'm here to promote. Yeah.
And that's absolutely beautiful. And I find it really, really interesting. There's many kind of speculations as to why we have such a number of people who have autism or on the autistic spectrum, have what people are labeling as ADHD. I mean, all these labels, to me, they're just labels. The egoic mind wants to make sense of things. I've never seen it as a kind of a negative or it's because of this and it's because of that. It's a kind of like an injury aspect. I've never seen it in that way. I've seen them as incredibly high frequency souls coming into the physical body. And it's kind of like you're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. It's like they are not on the same wavelength, quite literally, because they're on a much higher spectrum of wavelengths than the systems that they're coming into and the energetic framework of the people that they're surrounded with. So what I think is absolutely beautiful with your work is that you're focusing through your relationship with your own experience with your son and kind of that really visceral experience, and bringing that into actually what we all need to be doing and what we're all here to do, which is embody, to be able to enable those lower aspects to hold the frequencies that we are, to hold the all that we are in this physical. And I totally agree. It's not about, going up and out, doing away with the body, doing away with the mind. It is integration. It is unification. So in saying that, what would you like to share about your work and about how you specifically, through these teachings from your son, guide people, assist people to clear their lower chakras, to enable those higher frequencies to really come in and be embodied?
Right. So I do a lot of different kinds of work. As of late, I've been working with a lot of healers and being able to open their gifts. When we integrate these different aspects of the human container, when we form a trusting bond with our ego, and let me go into that a little bit, because in the spiritual community, it's been a very we don't really want to talk about it. We don't want to deal with it. It's like something to put behind the door. But what my son showed me was that because his spirit was so strong and so vast, and he wasn't yet connected to the body through the emotional pain body and that kind of thing, he didn't really have an identity. So we would go from environment to environment, and he would shift and change depending on what environment we were in. And my awakening really occurred when he started kindergarten, or when he started preschool, actually at the age of 3, because my greatest fear was that he would get a teacher that wouldn't see and know his brilliance in the same way that I knew it. When he was home with me, because I just intuitively knew how to talk to him and how to work with him, and I knew his brilliance, by the time he was 1, he could sight read over 25 different words. By the time he was 3, he could sight read over 100 words, new colors, new shapes, and was counting. And then when he started school, his teacher just saw him as a diagnosis. And because she held such a low vibrational standard of who he was, he became that image that she saw, and we lost everything. And it was through my feelings of failure and shame and all these different kinds of things that I began to meditate and just breathe to try to gain some semblance of peace, because I was longing for that connection that I had lost with him. So coming back to center, when I started down this path, what really began to take form, and Archangel Metatron was very present with this, Pleiadian Council Light was very present with this. he had to retrain me how to work with my ego when he was needing to develop his own ego. And the reason why was because he needed some kind of barrier. So my question was, what was the original intention of the ego, or how does your ego work? And Metatron and Archangel Michael actually came forward, and Mother Mary came forward, and they were showing me that they have an ego too. They don't define it as an ego, and it's never been attached to the emotional body. It's just an aspect of their barrier. Because my question was, I can feel you come as an individuated aspect of self. Like I can feel Archangel Metatron right here with me as an individuated aspect. But if I asked for all the archangels to come forward, I could feel all of them and do healing work and channeling through them with the collective here, right? So you can feel when a collective comes forward and you can work with them, but you can also feel them as an individualized aspect. And so what gives them that individualized aspect are their own source energy codes, and that's embedded into their energy field in the form of what we would define as an ego. So if we can heal and begin to remove our ego from our emotional body, it begins to act as this beautiful barrier for us. And so as it begins to heal and expand and understand its role, that it gets to be a protector in a way that's not out of fear, but one that's out of compassion. So as we began to deprogram the ego and expand it out, and maybe you guys can just feel me talking to yours right now. Everyone's, I can feel, they're like, okay, what? So I'm just doing a little work on everyone, if that's okay. So as we expand the ego out, we show the ego our source energy codes, those codes that are unique to us. We were all created in the womb of the creator, whatever your name for that is. And so we each have individual aspects of that creator code that we carry. And we give those out with each other, right? We radiate those out. So those carry a certain frequency. And so when we introduce our egos to our soul, our unique soul signature, and say, okay, wait, this is the only thing that's true for us. Anything that you've ever felt, seen, that's, if it doesn't bring this harmony or expansion, then it's not true for us. Our ego begins to understand its role is to allow for our own expansion of soul expression out through this human container. And its role is to redirect information. And that's all that it gets to look at, frequencies coming in. So if someone's in a bad mood, if someone's projecting whatever they're projecting, the ego gets to look at that just as information. It's either something that's going to cause constriction of our unique soul signature, or it's something that's going to allow for an expansion. If it's something that's going to cause constriction or restriction in some way, then it's information to be redirected back out of the field without judgment, with love and compassion. And our egos are capable of doing that. We just haven't known it. We haven't played with that level of consciousness yet. That's all that it is. So we teach the ego how to do that. And then the soul begins to expand, and our ability to turn on our gifts is so much easier. And our ability to channel and expand out into different levels of consciousness, to bring in more rays of light, to bring in more of our soul is much easier, because there isn't the resistance or the fear from the ego. We do the same thing with the mind. We do the same thing with the body consciousness. Your body has its own consciousness. We do the same thing with that, reconnecting it back to the earth. Because 95% of your body or more is made up of microbacteria, parasites, and viruses, and they all have consciousness. They make up your DNA too. So we're basically a walking macro organism, and they all have consciousness, and they want to be reconnected back to source, because their frequency has changed too, to be able to survive the chemical warfare that we've put in our soils and things. So when we're looking at, if we're wanting to heal and really be able to quantum leap into something different, then we have to look at the memory that has been stored in our egos, that has been stored in our mind and body consciousness. And that can all be very fast when they're all in communication, when they're all being seen, and when they're all being heard along with the spirit. So when we begin to work as a whole human container, then what we can shift into, what kind of new memories that we can be able to be a vibrational match to in the field, changes on a whole nother level. Because what we were trying to do before was we were just trying to, really rework the subconscious mind. And that's just one aspect of what we were radiating out. We were radiating out all these different frequencies from these different aspects of us. So if we can get everyone radiating out the same frequency, then our ability to quantum leap time and time again, our ability to really open up our gifts, that all begins to expand and shift at pretty incredible rates. So
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. And it is, I mean, I completely agree. We have a body consciousness. It is our, a lot of the time, it's our fears and our resistance that are held in that egoic state that feels separate, doesn't kind of recognize that it's part of the whole, that is often blocking. So it's absolutely beautiful that you're kind of, being able to have that communication with that egoic aspect and also the body consciousness, and like you say, all of the different consciousness that make us up into this entire form. Because I mean, I see the process that we're undertaking, it's not purely from humanity's perspective. It's everything that we interact with in this physical plane is coming into its own quantum leap of super consciousness as an integrated, unified aspect of self. And again, I often see it as we're walking permission slips, or we're walking mirrors, multidimensional mirrors, that once we're able to shift into that state, then we are radiating that frequency out. And that's kind of like, to the trees, to the plants, to the animals, to whatever, saying it's okay, we can all do this. So is there anything that you would like to share? I'm just looking at the comments. Jenny says she loves that phrase because she held such a low vibrational standard as to what he was. Yeah, she sees that happening in the world at times. I see it happening a lot. And again, it's these labels that we place on things.
But we heal the ego. So when I healed his ego, now we can go into different environments, and it doesn't really matter what anyone else is thinking, saying, feeling. He knows who he is now. That has given him almost a shield of armor, but not something that's shrinking who he is, but allowing an expansion of who he is. So it's just beginning to look at everything differently. And these all hold our unique soul signature within them. So they're all aspects of our soul, which are all aspects of the divine, right? So we're talking about being able to really radiate out in a way that we never thought possible, or we never thought we could, but we can. So if people want to do a short process to meet their egos and to meet the Earth's ego, it's so beautiful. We can
Absolutely. I'm up for that. And I'm sure everybody on the live call will be, as well as on the replay. So absolutely. Floor is yours.
I do. I'm a sound healer. So there might be light language that comes through. I'm not really sure. We'll kind of we'll play with it and see. All right. Okay, everyone take a nice deep breath in, begin to close your eyes. I did work as a cardiac sonographer for over a decade, so I have a science background, and that's kind of how I got into quantum physics and things. So I'll be talking to the left and right brain, talking to the body, talking to the ego. And as we breathe deep and when we close our eyes, that begins to shut off the light that's being filtered through the optic nerve. When we do that, the pineal gland begins to turn on, and that can heighten our psychic senses. And when you breathe, you want to take a nice deep breath down to the belly button, and that automatically begins to relax the central nervous system. That begins to slow our brain waves down so that we go from our outer brain to our inner brain. Now imagine your awareness is in your heart space. From your heart space, allow an expansion to begin to occur of your spirit, to get bigger than your body. Just expanding this bubble of light out. Let's expand out past the room you're in. Let's expand out past the building you're in. Expand down into the ground, out over the ground, up into the clouds. Let's expand out past the oceans, through the oceans, over the oceans, until you get on out past the earth. Now, as we just all relax and really expanded out, we became more light than matter. So I'm just going to ask for all of our egos to come forward. Some egos have never been worked with before, or they have felt neglected or shunned or used as an excuse for how we have acted in the past. So as we ask for our souls to come forward, what I would like for everyone to do is to look at your ego and tell it, sorry. Sorry that there wasn't guidance for you as we were developing and growing here. Sorry, I didn't understand how to have an open communication with you. I'm sorry, I didn't know you could be loving and kind. And then we're going to bring the earth's ego forward. To meet yours. And you may be able to feel that love coming through. And she's wrapping like a blanket around your shoulders. And we're going to give permission for your ego to begin to let go of your emotional body. So we're just going to bring in some codes of light. So every aspect of us is energy. And if we can begin to look at our human container, like an oriental rug in the quantum field, you have your unique colors and patterns that are unique to you. So all these atoms of energy that you are electromagnetic in form, and they form bonds to person, places, things. And to break up these energetic bonds, we have to bring in a little bit more energy to break up those bonds with things that we don't want to be enmeshed with, the things that we don't want to be corded into. There's things that are needing to be released so that they can expand. So we're just going to bring in a little bit more light and just allow that to come forward. Giving your permission, your ego permission to let go. And then we're going to give your ego permission to expand out all around you. Introducing your ego to your unique soul signature codes that are unique to you. And we're going to ask for your soul to expand those codes so that your ego can see the frequency of those codes. So just allow those to expand. And so we're introducing the ego to these codes, and we're just going to show them everything that you have ever felt, everything that you have seen, everything that you have programmed, plugged into, all the old memories in the field that are not a vibrational match to these codes. They're not really true for you. Those were external things. So if we bring up the frequency of shame, it's very incoherent, kind of jagged looking, just kind of not pretty. If we compare that to the codes that reside in your heart space, you can see that they're not a vibrational match. And if we actually take one of your codes of light and we hit it with this incoherent frequency of shame, you'll actually see your code of light shrink and shrivel to protect itself, just like a strand of DNA. We know through science that if we hit negative energy, negative emotions to our DNA, that our DNA shrinks and shrivels to protect itself and codes of light turn off. Your source energy codes are exactly the same, operate the same. So ego, we know now that anything that is incoherent of that nature that is going to cause a constriction is something that we need to begin to redirect out of the field without judgment of why that energy is being thrown at us or why we're walking into it or what's occurring. All we need to know is that that's not a vibrational match to who we are. And so that's something to redirect back out of the field. Okay, so take a big breath in. And just allow for your ego to expand out all around your energy matrix. And know that it gets to operate differently. And just tune into what you feel. Do you feel any excitement at the possibility that the internal struggle between the mind, the ego, and the body consciousness, can you feel the excitement of that shift? That it doesn't have to be like it's been. For the possibilities of how we get to show up in the world differently. Okay, and when you're ready, you can begin to come back to your heart space. Tell your egos, thank you, I love you. And wiggle your fingers and your toes. Yeah, how did that feel?
That was really lovely. I definitely felt the excitement. It's like, yay!
Exactly. It's exciting. You know, our egos, our minds, our body consciousnesses. I teach a million classes on the unification process in a lot of different ways because everybody learns a little bit differently and everybody's energy operates a little bit differently. And there's endless ways. Every day I wake up and I'm like, okay, how can I see this differently? What do you want me to know differently? And when I go into a session with someone, I don't assume that I know anything. I assume that I know nothing because there's always more questions to be asked that will literally expand us out into different, more expansive levels of consciousness. So there's always a different way that we can see something that is more expansive than the way that we're seeing it right now. So I think that's where the excitement comes from, because that's truly when we become this undefined thing, that's really when we're reaching those pure potentials, those infinite potentials that are in the quantum field, because that's undefined energy in and of itself. So here on Earth, we're playing with physical form, but we're wanting to recreate and create something different. So we have to be able to reach strands of energy waves that are undefined. And then as they come through the different dimensional fields to where we are now, they slow down, and they come into a state of chaos. And when they come into that state of chaos, they come into particle form, and that particle form is what creates the physical reality that we live in. But we're wanting to create a different kind of physical reality, and the Earth is rearranging herself and changing her frequencies. So there are going to be states of chaos, like we're seeing in the political world, like we saw with the pandemic, so that things can be rearranged in our favor for the highest and greatest good if we continue to undefine what we think, what we've known in the past, So we have to continue to put one step forward, undefine what we have known up to this point, and allow ourselves to find safety in the unknown and trust the unknown energy so that new potentials can come forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm kind of what I'm shown a lot by spirit, because it's quite visual for me. I must say, actually, loads of light language wants to come through. It's just like
There's
before
a
you
lot.
did the activation, it was just like, oh, well, I was like,
Yeah.
but yeah, it often shows me it's like we're in the middle of a football field. But I mean, I was a physical therapist, in terms of that was what I did for many years. And we often find that as people get older, their heads, everything kind of starts bending and their focus is down. And that's what spirit was showing me. It's like our focus is down, and we need to kind of allow ourselves to kind of free up, allow ourselves to lift our heads and to see the full range of potentiality, because
Right.
it is this infinite field of potentiality that we exist within, but we have to let go of that very limiting view on what is possible, what can be created. And so, yeah, it's just another way of kind of spirit showing the same thing. I'm just looking at some of the comments about after that little, just real taster of the work that you do. Wow. Maria's toes were cold, now they're warm. Yeah, June feels warmer.
Yeah.
Yeah, a
Because
shift.
we're grounding at the same time. I think that, when we incorporate the body in our healings, when we incorporate these different aspects of ourselves in the healings, we're not just healing, or we're not just grounding this linear aspect of what we've seen ourselves as, but we're grounding the entire human matrix. And Mother Earth really came up and took care of that for us in this, during this time together. So we didn't have to really focus on it. But that's another thing that's beginning to shift and change as we continue to see ourselves as undefined aspects, as entire energetic matrices that have like this unique weave to us. So we ground this entire spectrum of light that we are down to the ground. And when we do that, then we can begin to hold more and more expansive rays of light, because it has somewhere to go and it's not going to overload the nervous system. When we look at a cell in and of itself in the physical container of the body, the mitochondria in there has been limited in the amount of rays of light that it can hold. The cell itself the waters within it have become unstructured to a point where it hasn't been able to hold a whole spectrum of light, just because of the chemicals in our water and the emotions that are in our water. That's why it's always so important to bless your water and to drink filtered, different kinds of filtered water if you can. So we have to look at the whole thing. We have to look at it all. And if we want to open our gifts, if I'm helping someone change their healing practice, it's really easy for me to help someone open and expand their gifts in a way that they maybe haven't seen it, because I ask the questions and it's undefined for me. And we just expand out, expand. And then gifts come through in a completely different way, because we take the limiting stories out of what is light language.
Yeah.
Well, that depends. What dimensional realm are you connecting to? That's the language that you're bringing through. So we begin to undefine what is channeling. Well, what dimension are you connected to the most? Because that's the level of channeling you're bringing through. But if we ask the questions, how much can I expand and how much consciousness can I connect to? It continues to change. My heart is hurting more. I'm having heart issues the past weeks. Okay, well, let's just talk to your heart, Maria. So call your body consciousness forward. It just kind of feels like it's been broken. So Maria, close your eyes and call your body consciousness forward. And tune into your heart. Your heart has its own brain. All the major chakras have their own brains within them. There's a nerve plexus, like the root chakra has the inferior mesenteric nerve plexus. and then on up the system. Well, the cardiac has a nerve plexus there, the cardiac nerve plexus. And so if we can open up the communication between these different brains and these different chakras, because again, they're only vibrating the energy through them that's located in that system. So if you're holding on to heartbreak, if you're holding on to these kinds of frequencies, that's the main frequency that this brain is radiating out and connecting into. And then those are the signals that it's sending to the brain and your mind, which stimulate the kind of thoughts and chemicals that are released to the rest of your body. So just tune into your heart, and maybe you don't even need to know. They don't want you to go into the story of how it was broken multiple times in the past. So they don't want you to go into that story. Instead, what they want you to do is talk to your body consciousness and just say, I see you and I love you. And maybe I haven't always loved you in the past, but I'm learning to love you now. I'm learning to accept you now. And for a moment, put your hand on your heart and just breathe in deeply. And everyone on the call can do this. Breathe in gratitude. And even if you can't find the frequency of gratitude, you can ask your master guides or guardian angels to bring that frequency to you. So I'm beginning to feel gratitude for this experience that we're having together. So we're just going to allow for all the neuropeptides utilizing our breath. So every time we have an emotion that we didn't express, there's neuropeptides that get stored in your tissues. We utilize breath, sweat. It's mostly released through moisture. So we're going to utilize breath to move those neuropeptides, those chemicals that were released in response to the emotions, that cause the heart walls. We're going to begin to release those out. Because it's the frequency of those neuropeptides that are tying you into these old heartaches in the energy field, into the memories of what those represent to you in the energy field. So if we release the neuropeptides out of the body, and I'm just going to start kind of moving those a little bit faster for you guys. If we start moving the neuropeptides out of the body a little bit faster, a little bit deeper, then we start shifting the frequency that our cells, that our tissues are sending out into the field, connecting us into those memories. So you can kind of imagine that all these like neuropeptides and stored up chemicals are letting out these little tendrils of energy, like little strings, and these strings are attaching you to old memories of who you have been in the past, or what you have allowed to identify you in the past. And so we're just going to start kind of plucking those strings out as we move these neuropeptides up and out of your body, breaking up those strands so that you're not connected into those old memories. Now it's up to you to tie into new memories. So while I'm pulling you out of the old memories, go ahead and think of a new way of how you want to feel. Who do you want to be in this quantum realm, in this endless potential? What does that person feel like? What are they experiencing? What colors are they wearing? What's the emotion like on their face? All right, and so now we're going to start tying into that new memory, and you can do that by utilizing the infinity sign with intention, because you're beginning to tie into those memories in the field. And if you want to imagine, I always tell people to imagine those memories being like in a balloon, and you just blow up that balloon with all the emotions that you want to experience in there, what you want it to look like, what you want it to feel like, because that's a band of frequencies, and that creates the computer program that you want to experience. And that's what experiences are. They're computer programs. So go ahead and allow yourself to tie into those utilizing the infinity sign. And so every day it's your job, it's your mission to continue to tie into these new memories. And when those feel too small, you release the neuropeptides, you release your body, you release these strings of energy to these, and you create new ones. And this is the true meaning behind intentions. This is what intentions do. When we set an intention, we're actually creating a memory in the field and wanting to tie into that. Problem is that most of us, our bodies remember the old intention or the old memory a lot more vividly. And so we allow ourselves to be pulled back time and time again. But if we talk to our body consciousness, if we talk to our mind, if we talk to our ego, if we talk to our spirit and say, no, this is who we are becoming. Look how much more expansive that is. Do you see how my source energy codes are expanding in that balloon? I want to experience that. Let's tie into that. Let's remember that. That becomes your new memory. And it's your job a few times a day to tie into that new memory and start acting like you're already living that memory. And it becomes your life. It becomes your reality. Because remember, you're in a field of potential energy waves. But in order to have a physical experience, we needed to come into a particle wave state. And there's going to be a little place of chaos where those energy waves shift and change into the particle wave state. So give yourself a little bit of time to develop stronger and stronger energy waves coming into your field, into a state of particle wave that you can tie into and experience. Hey. How does that feel? It was a lot of energy clearing.
Yeah. Well, it felt really good for me. How was that for you, Maria? Pain is gone. Heart is warm.
Good.
Yeah, I was noticing a lot going off at the back of my head. It just felt like the back of my head was like really opening up. It's like, okay.
Yeah, well, that's where we take energy in, right? We take energy in, process it, and then it comes out the front. So what we've been tied into is an energetic match to what we've been bringing in. So I opened up this membership portal on my website because I wanted people to have access to all the different classes that I've taught, because I'll refer to them, I'll be doing something, and then I'll refer back to them. And I don't want to have people to have to like, anyway. So I taught these classes over the summer of quantum therapy for the chakras, because those lower three chakras are consumer energies. If you think about the root chakra, it's consuming energy to procreate life here. We have the digestive system, and that's consuming energy to feed the body. But the problem is that we've been consuming external energies. So by the time that consumption gets up to our heart space, where we're supposed to be radiating out our divine love for ourselves and others, what we're actually telling ourselves is that we trust other people more than we trust ourselves, because we've been consuming other people's energy and not our own. So going back to what you're feeling, the disconnection off the back is releasing all those energies that we have been consuming that's not serving us, that's external, it's not for us, it was never meant for us, it's not our energy, period. And we're beginning to consume our own energy so that we change and heal and expand the frequency of each of these minds that reside in the root chakra, the mind that resides in the sacral chakra, and so on and so forth. And then we radiate that up. By the time that gets to the heart, by the time it gets to the throat, to the third eye, to the crown, it's expansive and it's your energy. So you connect to your field in a more expansive way. So
that's really beautiful. Yeah, Maria just said thank you very much. She's feeling quite tired. And again, you know, just honor what you're feeling and allow that to be. I think it's a really good point actually now, because you kind of touched into your special offer, just to kind of go through the free gift and the special offer that you've made to the audience. So the free gift is a 60-minute pre-recorded healing for the inner child. This is on the free gifts page on the website, and it will be on the email that I do manage to get out, because I'm setting that intention.
We'll tie into that balloon.
Absolutely. So the details can be found on the website on the free gifts page under Erica's photo. And it's to help your inner child remember your gifts and passions, and also to show the inner child how it was been programmed, and to show them how to take back their power, which, you know, that's really what I think pretty much every speaker on the summit has been talking about. It's the time for us to really reclaim our power, our light, our truth, and to really fully allow ourselves to step into this. So, you know, this free gift is a perfect portal into that.
Yeah. We
And
work with I didn't even list it on there, but we work with the ego and the mind and the body consciousness along with the inner child, so they can see how they developed along the way. So we can start to deprogramming the inner child, giving the inner child the authority to do that work on your behalf.
now, one thing that I will ask, because I know Colby Wilk yesterday said, you know, his free gift is that listen to it once. You don't want to be, you know, recreating your future time and time again. Is this something that people can go back to and listen to multiple times, or is it?
Yeah. Like the work is layered. So people often go back because, you know, how I see it is there's a balloon, and every time we listen into it, every time we tune into it, that balloon grows and expands to another dimensional plane and carries more consciousness within it. So every time you go back and work with the inner child, work with the inner child's ego, mind, and body, they're going to find different places where they've like tagged in, enmeshed or whatever, and given even more authority and understand themselves even more to begin to expand even more from that aspect.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And for the special offer, Erica is offering a 50% discount for this community who sign up for her monthly quantum transformation portal. And as you were saying, this portal has everything that you have done. So, you know, all of the different courses and things that you've discussed in this session alone and so much more can be found and accessed through that portal. Would you like to speak to the special offer a little bit more?
Yeah. So like we talked about, all the classes, everything that I've ever done is in that portal. And then there are 2 live classes taught each month in the portal as well. And all the recordings from all the previous live classes are in the recording or in the portal as well for easy access. And you don't have to download, you can just go there and click on it. And it's try to make it as easy and accessible as possible, because I'm like, what would I want? So this month in November, we're talking about relationships and really diving into relationships. I talk a lot about in my work, and what we were doing today, we did a little bit of it too, was releasing enmeshment. So my middle son came to me, I think it will have been like 3 years ago now. So when I'm in meditation, their spirits will come and they'll show me like, okay, mom, I need you to do this. I'm like, all right. So he came to me and he was getting ready, you know, for a big shift in his life, puberty and things like that. And he was asking me to unmesh from him because I was ascending pretty quickly and he was wanting to go a little bit more through the human experience. So earlier in the session, I talked about how atoms are electromagnetic and form magnetic bonds. So our fields of energy form bonds, and that kind of, to me, they always look like chain link fences interlinked. And so we interlink our energy matrices with a lot of different people, places, and things when we're not consciously aware that we're doing so. We can even do it with spiritual teachers when we think they have something we want, you know, we create these enmeshments, and it's, you know, kind of a form of codependency. So what we're doing is really beginning in November to learn how to trust ourselves above and beyond anything else, and beginning to release these enmeshments with any person, place, or thing, so that you can come into, like when I released this enmeshment with my son that I wasn't even aware was there, when I released it, our relationship was able to grow and expand into something different, even more expansive than before, even though he was on a different kind of timeline than I was on. It's just different, you know, it's much more expansive because we're not triggering each other, so to speak.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. So what I've got written down is that the level 1 membership includes a 45-minute one-to-one personal session with Erica each month to attune your magnetic field to what you would like to receive, the intuitive guidance or whatever else your soul is asking to receive. As you say, the 2 large group classes that include the Q&A space and the recordings of which, and as you say, all access to courses, activations and meditations, and any free access to new courses during the membership period. And so if you want to access that, there is a discount code, M2M8, and you use that at the checkout. But all the details, as I say, are on the free gifts page. The button to access the free gifts page is under Erica's photo on the upcoming calls page and on the replay page on the website. So if in doubt, go to mundanetomagicalliving.com/ and then, replays. If you go onto the website in any way, shape or form, along the top, you will see the upcoming calls page, the free gifts page, and access to the replay page as well. So if you're in doubt about anything, always go to the website because all the information is on there. And if I have any technical issues with things like MailChimp, then it's there on the website and all the information is accessible. I'm just aware of the time, but Destine has said that there's an aspect of her that feels it needs some attention. Could you look into it? That's a bit vague, Destine. I mean, we all have 1,000,001 different aspects.
What dimensional field do you want me to look at? Okay,
Yeah.
let me see what's popping up.
If you could give a little bit more information.
Well, for me, what's standing out for her the most is her mind.
Okay.
Needing to talk to her mind. When we think, so the mind itself is a multidimensional being of light. The mind is seeing multidimensionally all the time. I'm just kind of talking to your mind and reminding it of its superpowers. So if you think about like the beautiful pineal gland in the center of the brain that's sending out signals all the time, that is tuning into different dimensional fields, different levels of consciousnesses, wanting to see the truth in all things, but yours has been a little bit too scared to see the truth in all things. And what we mean by that is really just your psychic abilities. And it's just giving yourself permission to see. There's a lack of trust that it can handle it. So what that means to me is that you haven't really built a very good relationship with the mind, which most of us haven't. Like I spent a lot of time before trying to get my mind just to quiet down because I have a very active mind. Most of us do. It really loves to learn and investigate. And I'm just like, shut up. But no, I needed to talk to it differently. I needed to see and honor its brilliance. And then I put a big old recliner chair in the side of my head. And I'm like, okay, right now, you don't have to figure anything out. My soul has this. So what we could do instead is actually show your mind your unique soul signature codes, just like we did with your ego earlier. Same thing with your mind, and say, okay, when we start to run neural pathways that are incoherent in fashion, that are sending disharmonic vibrations to the entire body, disharmonic chemicals and hormones to the entire body, like cortisol and things like that. Are those really a vibrational match to the truth of who I am? And if you do the inner child healing, actually, this will be very beneficial because your inner child actually has your hand up, she's the one that's pointing to your brain, but we don't quite have time to go all into that. So open up the communication with your brain, open up the communication with your inner child. She was very inquisitive, but she got shut down quite a bit. So do the free inner child healing and talk to them both and just kind of see how they both play together and open up the relationship. She closed off her third eye. She closed off a lot of her thoughts, not wanting to see, express like most of us did. So, but that feels really, really powerful for you right now. So.
And I think that's relevant for a lot of people as well. I mean, again, we are individuated aspects of the all that is, but we're also an aspect of the all that is. And so we're all joined, we're all connected, which is why it's so beautiful that even when, speakers answer a personal question, it then often is very relevant to everybody, in some way. If you're tuning in and you feel, oh yeah, I've got this really crazy monkey mind that just won't stop, then it's like, this is the answer for you as well. It doesn't matter who you are or when and where you connect in with this work. This free gift is an amazing opportunity for you to go in and have those conversations with multiple different aspects that can be showing up for you, because they will show up for you when you do the activation in their own personal and perfect way. Has anybody got a burning question that they would like to ask Erica before we bring this conversation to a close? Because I'm just a bit conscious that of the time, we're already at an hour. And if not, is there anything that you would really love to kind of share that we haven't touched upon, that just wants to be shared before we bring the conversation to a close?
I feel like I shared a lot. I don't want to overload people because we talked about a lot of different things. So someone's asking about anxiety. That is a really good discussion to have with your body consciousness. We get addicted to these frequencies that, again, you experience anxiety and there's it feels like a bit of dopamine that was released from that. And then the cells get addicted to those chemicals. So we have to give your body permission to let that go, talk to the cells. I actually have classes on talking to your body consciousness in the membership portal. But you can do it just like we did it today on the live, and we talked to the ego, talk to your body consciousness, reintroducing the mitochondria, reintroducing the microbacteria back to the earth plane and back to their original divine blueprint so that they can remember what frequencies do bring me the most harmony. And we get addicted to these harmonic chemicals that are being released instead of the other ones that anxiety caused. So anxiety is a layered thing, but that's where it feels like you should start, Jenny. So
yeah, thank you. And again, it is very much when we are allowing ourselves to connect fully into our own unique divine signature. Quite often Spirit calls it our divine harmonic, our symphony of light, sound and vibration. It doesn't matter what's going off. We don't then get triggered in the same way that we did, because again, like you were saying, your ego becomes that kind of protective aspect. It's part of our boundary system in terms of, well, that doesn't resonate with this, that doesn't feel in alignment with this expansive perspective of self, and therefore I'm not connecting into it. So when we allow ourselves to kind of work through in whatever way, doing the inner child activation and just seeing what comes up in each time and just letting go of that and connecting your ego, connecting your microcosm to the macrocosm that is the earth's highest frequency, then you will experience the changes and shifts. That's what I've found. We experience life as we walk around, going and seeing what everybody else is experiencing, and yet we're experiencing it in a different way. And I can certainly attest to that with the chaotic events that have been happening in the world over the last few years. My experience of it has been completely different to the mass collective experience of exactly the same events. And so it's incredibly powerful work and beautiful work, because you're allowing yourself to step into that which you came here to be, and the experience of life you came here to have. So Petra is saying, wow, I have learned so much. I will start with the inner child. Absolutely. It's a wonderful activation. It's a beautiful free gift, and I feel very blessed for the free gift and the special offer that Erica has made to the audience. So I would absolutely look into that. Thank you so much, Erica. Like you say, you did share an awful lot. And again, this replay is going to be available. So if you feel like your mind's been blown, or you've only just been able to absorb a certain amount, just go back, listen back, take the opportunity to go back to the replay, and you will absorb the next layer of information, of energy that you're ready to absorb. The replay will be available on the YouTube channel. It's been live streaming, so it'll be available immediately after this call. So thank you so much, Erica. It's been an absolute joy having you on, and I think you've shared the information that you had to share in a very grounded way. It was very, well, me personally, it was very easy to understand, but it seemed that it was accessible and easy to understand for everybody else, which was wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for sharing me with your community. It's beautiful. And there is more light language that's going to be unzipping when people listen to it again. So just everyone be aware. You'll be expanding. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
No, it's been a real joy. It's been a real pleasure to have you on, and I would love to have you back at some point. So let's stay in touch. So thank you to those who did manage to come and join us on the live call. I think you give yourself a big pat on the back energetically for just managing to be here after all the chaos that was created by the physical plane. This replay, as I say, will be available, and tomorrow we finish the season 8 of this Mundane to Magical Summit with a live call with Yale Green, a hybrid human who's going to be talking about the multidimensional portal that water is. And as we are mostly made up of water, that should be an exciting conversation to be had. So please feel free to join us, and I will make sure that the emails go out, even if I have to stay up all night doing it. All right then, my lovelies. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Erica. Thanks to everybody who joined. Much love to you all, and I shall see you all again tomorrow at the same time. Take care, everybody. Goodbye.